All right, everybody, welcome to another installment of the Mission Roll Call Town Hall. I'm your host, Ray Whitaker, also the CEO of the organization. As you can see over here to my side, we have Mr. Mr. Whaley. I called you Maley for some reason, but Mr. Jim Whaley is the CEO of the organization of Mission Roll Call. We're glad to be here with you guys. Going to do a couple admin things real quick, and then we're going to move into the actual conversation. First and foremost, thank you for being here and taking your time. We're going to be talking about a couple different things today, but more importantly, we're going to give you an opportunity to ask questions. So if you have questions, there's something that you want to know about what Mission Roll Call does, or just in general, things that veterans are saying, post a comment over in whatever platform you're watching on. Because I believe we're on everything right now, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of that. So Jim should be used to this. So all of that should be well. To stay informed, to make sure that we're hearing your voice, if you're a veteran or a family member or even a supporter, make sure you guys go to missionrollcall.org. Sign up, become a member. We're putting polls out and surveys all the time, and we need your feedback. We can't amplify your voice and make sure that decision makers know what you want if you're not giving us your voice. So please take a little bit of time to do that. Go over there and do it. The last thing, I promise, we have the Veteran Access Care Survey that's live right now on the website. So at the beginning of every month we start this thing, and we want to do it. It's probably going to take 5 minutes of your time, maybe, if that, but it's about your benefits. It's about your healthcare and us asking important questions to make sure. There's a link on the main page on Mission Roll Call, and there's going to be links. We'll have the folks comment. So Nate and team, if you guys can comment in the comments there, it'll be great. That way everybody kind of knows. So go take that thing and get that thing rocking. Alfie, thanks for joining us today. Great to have you here. So Jim, welcome to May. Can you believe it's May already?
It's unbelievable. And, here in South Carolina, it already feels like summer.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I walked outside. It was hot the other day. Then I walked back outside. It was cold. Then we had a storm front go through, and it just kind of ruined everything. So
that's right.
The days. All right. Well, I know our listeners are here. I think more importantly, they've got a lot of stuff. We got a lot of stuff we've been doing the last kind of 30 days since our last one. For those that want to know, our last one's up, so you can go back and look at it. Jim, for you, last month, we really focused on amplifying veteran voices to both the VA and congressional leaders, right? The survey that we conducted back in the February-March timeframe really gave us a lot of really important data that Nate, you guys can share just a couple of those screenshots so folks can see them from the polls. Yeah. We've had the opportunity to kind of talk about those. What I'm interested from you, Jim, is if you can kind of help the audience understand what is our approach? Like, how are we taking these poll results and making sure that we're informing VA and congressional leaders?
Yeah, well, this is our bread and butter, right? This is how we amplify your voice, the voice of your family, the voice of your dependents with elected officials and the media. So these polls are very important. The VA, new leadership, there's an entire new administration, right? And so there's a lot of initiatives underway, especially around veterans and veteran benefits in the VA specifically. And I think what we have found is that the current leadership at the Veteran Administration is very focused on listening and hearing what veterans have to say, but there's a challenge in doing that. In many cases, they're getting feedback from other VSOs that have filtered what veterans have told them and are presenting to them, to the VA, what they think is important. I think where we stand apart is that we don't add any flavor to it. We don't add any salt and pepper. We just take the voice of what veterans are telling us, what their feelings are, where their opinion is on important subjects, such as reorganization at the VA and shifting of assets and their experiences of navigating the VA and sharing that with their leadership. And so I'm actually quite buoyed by the fact that they've been reaching out to us and we're working with key leaders, both in the Senate and the Congress, as well as the VA, to make sure those voices are heard.
Yeah, and that's great, Jim. I think for those that are listening, I would ask you guys, we love feedback here. Jim and you and I talk about this a lot, even the team, about the importance of, feedback, both good and bad. Sometimes we don't like bad feedback, but it is important. And it's the same thing for government leaders, right? They need both. They need to understand exactly how we feel and why we feel the way we are. Right. So for those that are listening, I would ask you a question to reply and chat on whatever platform you're on. How do you feel about how veteran issues are being handled right now in Washington? So think outside of an individual. Think about the mechanism in general. How are you feeling? Are you feeling good about it? Are you wishy-washy? And if so, if there is a problem that you're seeing, reply. Let us know what that is, and then maybe we can touch on it here. And if we don't touch on it here, we'll touch on it later. So Jim, thank you so much for kind of talking about that.
Yeah, it's real important. Before you go to your next question, I'll say that, you think that folks at the highest level of decision making at the government have at their exposure all of the latest data and what people think and what their constituents are saying. That's far from the fact. The real issue is that sometimes they struggle on trying to hear what their constituents are telling them. And that includes senators and congressmen, and as well as the VA. So I think where we play a vital role moving forward is we'll be able to not only provide that opinion, but we'll be able to do it in real time with the ability of our app to take polls, with the ability to go online and take those polls, to through every channel that you could possibly think of to be able to do that. I think that's important because, if you're an elected official, you want to hear how this is resonating with your constituents. And I think that's an important aspect that Mission Roll Call brings to the table that other organizations just can't.
No, and I completely agree, Jim. I mean, it's the one way of being unbiased and unfiltered is just delivering the information, right, and not putting any agenda. And I love how we talk about sometimes we look at the poll answers. We all have our own opinion about what it's going to be. And then you look at the poll and you're like, okay, that is not what I was expecting. That's like so far the other side. But that tells me we're doing it right, though, because it's not about us. It's about those that have served. Warren and Deborah just want to say, hey, from us here. Okay, Jim, the next thing, talking about like focusing on areas that folks may not know a lot about or awareness in general. Last year, every year we do a survey. And we ask veterans and their families, hey, you tell us what you want us to focus on. One of those areas was homelessness. And we went into this kind of not really understanding. Of course, none of us like not having veterans on the street and understanding that we want everybody to have 4 walls and all of that. Can you talk a little bit about how we're bringing awareness to homelessness? I mean, it's such an important topic to discuss, by the way.
Yeah, it really is. And it really is an embarrassment for our country to have on any given night 30,000 veterans homeless across our country. And those numbers are sometimes much higher than that. Hopefully, sometimes they're lower than that, but they're certainly not as accurate as any of us would want. I would say there's really 3 key areas that we're focusing on in terms of homelessness. And that is, one, we're sharing our polling data. We're sharing the information we're hearing directly to the VA, to the senior leadership within the VA. I think the second, which is very important because they need to hear this information. They know there's a lot of work to do. And the secretary has said when it comes to suicide and homelessness, what they've been doing is just not working to the level that any of us really want. I think the second area is we're working with organizations across the country to bring awareness to the situation, to help them tell their story. We've done a podcast with Mighty Hero Homes, great organization in the Georgia area, in Atlanta area specifically, and they're doing wonderful work on trying to expand their abilities as well as their state to address this important issue through providing homes directly to veterans in a unique way that puts the homes together with other veterans, kind of in a conclave of different homes that will have veterans in it, sometimes permanently, sometimes temporarily, some built for families, some built for single, but they really have a bold vision, and we're trying to bring awareness to that. And I think the other one is we're doing a real in-depth study right now that really looks at homelessness from a holistic perspective and digging into the data and then sharing that data directly via our website to everyone who needs to see it. And then they can share it with folks that need to know about it. It's a complex issue. I've always learned that simple problems usually get solved pretty quickly. And then the higher you move into the organization, by the time the problem gets to you, it's pretty complex. So if we haven't been able to solve this issue in the last year or two, and it's really been going on for 2 decades, it's complex. And so it needs a study to really look at that complexity and come up with ways to fix it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Jim. And I've been, both of us have been kind of fully engulfed with this, which has also helped shape the organization a little bit, because I think the thing that we're learning as we ask questions to folks that are inside of these areas, you sometimes get 3 or 4 answers, and you really start to think, well, what is the right answer, right? Like, what is, but then you also understand from a government perspective, if you have a congressional leader, that's sitting up on a stage and maybe asking questions, a lot of that is coming through, the research, the great work that their staffers and other folks are providing to them. But we want to make sure that they have the right data. So we're looking 10 years back. We're putting all that together. The amazing team that we have, Roger and Nate and Britt and all them that have been focused on this. That web page is going to go live soon, and I really can't wait to have that come, because I think it's really going to bring some unique eyes on making awareness for this problem, because it is a very complex problem, right?
Yeah, I think most people think of homelessness as a generic issue, right? A homelessness person is a homelessness person, and that's not the case. Every state is different. Cities approach it different than other cities. I mean, the highest growth demographically in the homelessness sphere is mothers with small children. So think about that. And the complexities there, dealing with minors and all of that, and the challenges of getting them in a safe environment with their children. And so, I think anyone that looks at this problem is very concerned by it. I think a nation as strong and as powerful and as rich as ours should fix this problem, and it's just a matter. And so that's why I'm excited to see what this study shows, and hopefully it will be helpful to senior decision makers up in DC and state level to make the right choices. But we need, and this is the last comment on this, but I'm passionate about it, there needs to be a sense of urgency on this issue, just as with suicide, because homelessness is part of the path to suicide in many cases, but we need a sense of urgency as a nation to fix this. Because there's a lot of veterans out there suffering, and we need to address it quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. Well, yeah, thank you for that. I'm looking forward to it, and blessings to you as well. Okay, listeners, one thing we'll say is we've got advocacy, a lot of advocacy stuff happening. We only touched on a couple things that we're using your voice to help shape, right? Again, we're taking it, we're just delivering it. We actually have an entire advocacy area on the website where we're taking the stuff that you guys are providing us, and we appreciate you. Keep doing it. We continue to provide that to our leaders. So we'll link you here. We'll link you on the different platforms you guys are on. Get involved. I've said it once, I'll say it again. The second part of this, it's never easier. Mobile application live today. So congratulations. Jim didn't even know it was going live today. We're surprising him on air so that he can look surprised and run around his desk. So the good news is mobile application is live. You can take polls. You can get all the advocacy there. You can look at the podcast is on there. We're going to be looking at putting the town hall on there. We've got our MRC University stuff. Yeah, everything. So both iPhone and Android. So you can look on the main website here, missionrollcall.org, and you can get a town hall page. And we'll put some links up here. Okay. We'll come back and look. Warren's one thing think vets need. Yeah, Warren, we'll get back to your question here in a second. I got 2 more with Jim, and then we're going to start hitting that question. So Nate, if you can tag that would be great. Okay, the other thing that we're focused on, Jim, this month, May, is Mental Health Awareness Month. Yeah. We can't bring enough awareness to mental health awareness and just suicide in general, right? Both of these are important things. Do you have any recommendations for veterans and their families to consider during May to help with their mental wellness? Because if they're strong, then obviously those around them will be strong.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because I think all of us from time to time feel a little blue, feel a little down, focus on things that maybe we shouldn't focus on. I think it's great to have, avenues to reduce stress, to kind of figure out where you are, and address some things that may concern you. Plugging into an organization, team, Red, White, and Blue, to go out and do some exercising with other veterans, either virtually or in person, I think's a great. I've joined that organization, and I like to go to the gym and work out, even though it doesn't show. It's important to try to stay physically fit and move and keep active. I'm also a beekeeper, so I like to get out in nature and get stung by bees. That's a weird way for me to, find my space. But, for some of us, just getting out into the woods or into, nature itself and just spending a little time. I read one time long ago as a philosopher of some sort that said an hour in nature completely quiet can solve almost any problem. I don't know if that's true or not, but I have found that when you sit and you're just quiet and listen to your inner voice and do it in a way that's surrounded by nature and birds and trees and such, I just find that very relaxing and get away from all these devices that sometimes steal our attention and fragment our concentration in a way that doesn't allow us to focus on something. And then I think another way is just to be around friends and family in a way that brings joy to your life, and focus on that. I also think it's important when you think about somebody is to try to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Because just as you have some challenges, we all do, when you think about somebody, just pick up the phone and call them. And I've always tried to live by not trying to keep account those things. And right, so maybe I've had to contact that person for the last 3 years, once or twice a year. That's okay. I'm not keeping count.
That's right.
It's important to do that, I think, and just reach out and tell them you're thinking about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit on so many things. I love that you are out getting attacked by bees. It's such an important way to just take your mind off everything else when you have, 1,000 bees.
Yeah, running away in a very fearful way from a swarm of bees is a unique way to get yourself focused on something else.
Absolutely. The point you bring up a salient point of, surrounding yourself with other people that, not just anybody, not just people in general, but around people that have like interest and very similar to you is such a great way to help you mentally and also physically continue to be. Because at the end of the day, we all want to be here. We want to be supporting each other. Your service to bees is your way of giving back, right? Somebody would say, oh, well, it's bees. But yeah, it's your way of continuing to give back to something.
Right.
And I think when we lose that, especially as service members, veterans and stuff, when you leave and you're not doing that anymore, then we all get there. We've all been in that place. So thank you.
And I think generally, and we try not to generalize people, but I think generally veterans are very good about taking care of other veterans and taking care of other things and other organizations, and pretty bad about taking care of themselves. If you can combine those things, you'll be better off.
Absolutely. One thing I'll say for everybody, Operation Surf, we had them on the organization. Jim and I talk all the time that there's so many veteran organizations out there. Like there's a lot, and they're all doing great things. Okay, or we suspect they're all doing great things. That's for other people to decide that. But they're out doing good things to support you as veterans or families. The great part about Operation Surf, they do healing through, powers of the ocean. So they're out teaching surfing and some other things as such. But we got an opportunity to bring on the team there. We talked to John. We got an opportunity to talk to Van as well and just learn about them. And we did a podcast on it. We got some blogs, everything else. You guys can go to thelastingmission.org and visit that and just watch those. Like, they're very powerful. And this goes back into play again. Remember, it's mental health awareness month. So it's a great opportunity to watch these podcasts and then learn from other folks, and then even share that with somebody that may be going through something similar. So we appreciate it.
And one more thing on mental health awareness is that you may see someone and say that is the most self-assured, confident. He's got his act together. She has her act together, but you never know what's in somebody's backpack and what they're carrying. So don't assume somebody who comes across, happy and everything seems to be going their way. Check on them, ask them how they're doing, because sometimes that's all they need, really, to break that chain of events that leads to a dark place.
Yeah, ask and then just listen.
Yeah,
sometimes it's hard, right? Listening is sometimes hard. Totally agree. Okay. All right. We're going to, for everybody here, thanks again that you're here. We're going to move into questions. Again, if you got questions, you got something you want to ask, ask. You've got the ability to post up a comment, and we'll try to get as many of these as we can over the next probably 8 or 10 minutes or so. So Jim, we always love putting you in a hot seat and just asking you questions without you knowing what's coming. So we're going to start that now. Okay. So the first question is a great question. So what happens when the VA funding is cut? What do you guys do to help us that depend on the VA getting back on track?
Yeah, that's a great point. I'll give an example of something that occurred not too long ago, and that is that we had found out through one of our employees, Jim Carr, who had been talking to some of his friends in the Tampa area, and there was a challenge there at the VA. And we worked with the organization, with him and with the people to validate that was really going on. And then we worked with the folks at the VA to address the issue, and they were able to fix that issue because the VA is a huge organization, right? 470,000 plus person organization. There's no way one person knows what's going on in an organization of that size. I mean, think about it's larger than the United States Army. So no one person in the Army knows everything that's going on in the Army. So, it's important for us to open dialogue and have communication channels to organizations to help that. But I would say on a broader, we're going to bring, when things aren't going well with the VA, or there's something we disagree with, or our folks are telling us it's not going well, through polling or direct conversations with us, we'll share that with decision makers to find out what's going on. So I think it's important to make sure that we let folks know where there's a problem. And that's why people getting involved with mission roll call is important. There's a lot of people, we all know them in our life, that complain about things all the time and don't seem to do anything about it. And then there's those few individuals that see an issue and then go out and try to solve that issue. And I think if we can all work together and find those issues, bring it to our attention, we'll bring it to folks that are making those decisions to fix it. So we're here to help be that conduit.
Yeah, great, Jim. And I don't know if we have the poll, Tara, to just amplify even more what Jim's saying. Part of what we do as an organization is to try to be proactive versus reactive, right? So part of this means that, we have a great team that's consistently looking, and you're part of that team, to be frank. Everybody that's here that's listening, this is why we need your voice, because you're bringing these issues. We can look at it. We can't do everything, and nor are we going to try to do everything, but we hit these big topic areas. So for example, be VA funding. As that started, right, we then put surveys together, we put polls together, we push them out, we have you take those. And as that team is starting to have that conversation, we now have the ability to go deliver what you're saying. Yep. And that's the power. And as everybody starts to understand, especially from a veteran perspective, right? When veterans truly understand that having 18 million veterans plus, we'll say 25 to 30 million people, because it's veterans and their families, right? Like that's an important piece of this. When we all understand that together, we have a voice. And when we give that voice, that it's powerful. Mission Roll Call understands that. That's why this gap exists. That's why we're doing it, because we know it happens. And Jim and Mike spend a lot of time delivering your voice. So that's what we're doing, Tara, is taking your voice, delivering it, trying to be on the forefront of these issues so that we have better outcomes. We're not always going to be on the front side of those, obviously. The good news, though, is our leaders, everything we've seen up to this point, is even when we come in the backside, they're receptive to information and they want it. They're hungry for it. They're asking us for information and feedback from you. So to me, that's an important thing. So thanks for that question, Tara. Jim, anything else on that one?
Yeah, I would say if you see the poll, share it with your friends and family so they can take the poll as well. It's a much different dynamic in a meeting when we go in there and we represent 1 million or 2 or 5 million veterans versus a couple thousand in a district. It's a different conversation with, quite frankly, different outcomes. So make sure you share that. We're a powerful voting bloc in this country when you think about it. As Ray said, up to 30 million people when you think about the veterans, 18 million plus their spouses, independent numbers probably north of that. That's a sizable block. And when you look at the percentage of veterans that actually vote, it's much higher than the average population. It's north of 80% of veterans vote. So that's powerful, and that can affect some serious change. So don't let your voice not be heard. Have your voice heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for that, Jim. Okay, next question is from Scott M. Jim, he says, your recent testimony before the House Veterans Affairs Committee addressed issues like healthcare access and mental health services. What tangible outcomes have emerged from that testimony, and how is Mission Roll Call tracking progress on these fronts?
Yeah, both those particular bills are moving through the HVAC in Congress as we speak. We've also talked about the Veterans Second Amendment Act and the Veterans Access Act, as well as a number of other bills that are important to us. I think what we're seeing is that the folks that are on the HVAC, and that stands for the House Veterans Affairs Committee at the Congress level, and then there's the SVAC, which is the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. Both of those have representatives on them across the country and bring those bills through Congress and the Senate to get acted upon. And in both of those organizations, we have a seat at the table. And we're able to use our polling to help shape their, not only at the back end, like Ray was talking about, to say, okay, this is what our veterans think about the bill. But because we have been so effective, we see now we're involved in the early process of thinking about what is the art of the possible with bills. And so that's a diametric change, and quite frankly, a much more powerful position to be in when you're asked to be part of the process of baking this all together to see what can happen. And that's a strategic level versus a tactical approach.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, Jim, I think for both you and I, getting the opportunity to come in this organization, and I think it's for the whole team, and I'll speak on them only this one time, is the idea that we get to give back through the ability of creating impactful changes to things that affect veterans and their families, right? What I find really interesting when we came in, when you think of healthcare access, Scott, like you're asking about mental health services, we came into this just thinking healthcare access, right? Like that's, Ray having access to get the healthcare that I need. I don't think what either of us understood, or even the team, was that that's not it. Like this is broken into multiple bills, multiple legislation. Sometimes it's buried inside of other things. So we're now understanding, we're in a much better place today to understand that it is much different to have somebody that's underserved or somebody who doesn't have access at all, right? So this is somebody that's in Montana that's 6 hours away from, and I bet that's probably a little bit much, but you get the idea. They don't have a VA within driving distance. They don't have the type of healthcare that they need. The healthcare that they require is somewhere else. It's not in the state. Like these are all different issues, and it's things that we're now learning and we're starting to look at in the front end, and why the current survey that we have, the Veteran Access Survey that's live right now, that survey is why we need your voice. Because there's a lot of questions that are inside of that staffers and others are asking questions about, or that we're seeing. So Scott, we need you to take that, and then we need you to share that, because then it helps us find these issues across the multiple bills and legislation, or work with our coalition, because we're not the only people that are doing great work, right? American Legion, VFW, there's lots of others that have got there that we work with. At the end of the day, we can't do this alone. And I think Jim and I both feel that way. Jim, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else on that one.
No, the only thing I would say is that, the more voices we get, the more diverse voices we have across the country, the better off we are in trying to shape legislation that's really going to make an impact. What I'm excited about, and what I hope my team is excited about, is that the things we're doing now will not only affect veterans today, but will affect people that are in active duty right now, who 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now are going to retire or become veterans. And the stuff we're working on right now is going to impact them and their families. So it has far-reaching effects. And that's exciting, because that impact is going to make a difference. And when I talk to the press and talk to the media and talk to elected officials, I always highlight to them that veterans issues are recruitment issues, and they're all intertwined. It's all one big environment, and you have to make sure veterans issues are addressed in a timely manner, because that affects recruitment, and that definitely affects those that are on active duty right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree, John. Well, everybody, we hope that you guys learned something today. Last 30 days has been it's been crazy for us as an organization, and we got a lot coming. I mean, we're barely kind of scratching the surface of. There's so many things that are coming. Please, even after this is done, post up any comments, questions you have. We're gonna, each time that we do these, we will answer them. Right now, the next one will be happening. If I remember right, they told me this morning, and I still forgot, but it's June 18th. So June 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 12 p.m. We're happy to do these more, but really we're just making sure that it's impactful for you, the listener, that it's something that you want to know. So if there's something that we're missing that you want more of, ask. Let's make sure that we get it for you. Jim, any closing remarks for you?
Yeah, I would just say, of course, Monday's Memorial Day, a time for us as a nation to remember and reflect on those men and women, many thousands of them that gave their lives for our country. And that dedication, that courage, that selflessness is the foundation for the freedoms that we all hold dear and enjoy. So when you have time to celebrate your day off, focus on the fact that, and I don't have to tell the folks that are listening to this, but share it with others, that Memorial Day is a day of reflection and remembrance. But it's also symbolizes a lifetime of gratitude for those families that lost loved ones. And so we should think about them and their stories, their lives, the legacy they left behind, and make sure we spend time to reflect on that. And however you do that is up to you, but certainly a moment of silence and sharing that with others is important.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jim. For everybody that's here, thank you guys so much. For the veterans, thank you for your service. For the families, thank you for letting us use them for your service to our great nation. Remember, you need to be a voice for others. If the GI Bill, American Legion had not done the GI Bill, generations after would not have been able to do it. So what we're asking you to do is to be that person, right? Think about more than you, think about those around you, to make sure generations that follow us, that continue to ensure that America continues to move forward, has what they need after they leave service and they do their duty. So if you can do that, we would appreciate it. As always, we appreciate you guys. We'll see you next month. Jim, thank you so much for your time, and hope you guys have a wonderful week and month. All right, we'll see you guys.
Thank you.